Don't forget, Safeword by Fear and Greed now comes out every Thursday as a standalone podcast. So if you want to keep listening, and why wouldn't you, you need to search for Safeword by Fear and Greed and hit follow wherever you listen to podcasts, or just use the links in today's show notes. Welcome to Safeword by Fear and Greed. I'm Sean Aylmer. Safeword is a podcast made by the Fear and Greed team, responsible for Australia's most popular business podcast. It is about business, but only just. Often we find ourselves in conversations we wish we weren't anywhere near, hence the need for a safe word. Every week I'm joined by my colleagues from Fear and Greed. First up we have Adam Lang, a man who I feel this week has been full of excuses. It's time, Adam, to explain. This is a man who over the past 5 days has had school concerts, dog training, partners, friends, birthday parties to attend, not even attend, just drop his partner off at. Adam, you really have had a week of excuses. Adamski, good morning.
Good morning, Sean. Have you not heard of emergency dinners?
No, not until this week, and not until you came up with, I'm sorry, can't be available, have an emergency dinner. Hold that thought. Next, we have Mickey T, Michael Thompson, a man who this week finally conceded DIY isn't his thing. A man who came dangerously close to having a very serious accident because he forgot you really shouldn't touch power lines. I'm pleased you're with us this morning, Mickey T. Good morning.
Hello, Sean. I'm also pleased to be here.
That wasn't a very good story. We'll get into that in a moment. As I mentioned, I'm Sean Aylmer, the sensible one, really. Mickey, let's start with audience feedback. What are the Fear and Greeders saying?
Well, there's some good feedback this week from the Fear and Greeders, and you can tell I like this because I'm already smiling. I'm already laughing about it.
Because it includes you, Michael.
When you laugh, Michael, yeah, that's right. Firstly, it must include you. When you laugh also, because Michael is an gum chewer. He's always got gum in his mouth. And sometimes when we record, he chokes on it. And so there's this, discussion about Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Sorry, I just swallowed my gum. And off he goes again. And when you're smiling, as we see this morning, you can just see that gum flicking around the mouth there.
It's tucked away. It's neatly concealed.
Where do you tuck it away?
Between my upper left teeth and cheek, or really? Lower right, just basically wherever I want. I honestly, Sean, I don't put that much thought into it. It just goes somewhere.
Adam is now trying to mimic you by putting his tongue up there, and it looks very different. No, Adam, do not do that. We don't have a safe word yet.
Let me share with you the feedback from our Fear and Greed. And basically, this is kind of like, you know how Star Wars is a saga, right? And you've got multiple installments. This is the final installment.
This is Will. Is it
This
Will?
is a final installment in the saga of Will.
Will from Bris Vegas?
That's right. Because
fantastic.
this has been unfolding now for like 3 weeks, I think. And it all started with a review on Apple Podcasts from Will from Bris Vegas. And I'm not going to dwell too much on the original review because it didn't mention me. He did say that he loves all Fear and Greed podcasts, especially Safeword. He loves you, Sean. He loves you, Adam. And he left someone out. Anyway, long story, not going to get into it because it's obviously a bit of a touchy kind of subject. But I did put a call out for Will to do another review. He didn't do it last week. I was sorely disappointed. And I think I may have kind of raised that last week on Safeword.
Perhaps. You might have mentioned it once, twice. A bit like the war.
Not to mention daily to us.
And do you have any idea how many times I have checked now on Apple Podcasts to see if there is a new update?
Refresh.
I'm loving Will. I am loving Will.
So you can imagine how delighted I was to check, and suddenly there it was on the Safeword by Fear and Greed page on Apple Podcasts, a lovely, fresh review from Will from Bris Vegas.
What did he say?
The subject was Silence is Golden. I feel like that's targeting one member of the team here. It says, I was quite surprised by Michael Thompson's feelings of insecurity when I hadn't responded to his desperate pleas to get a mention. I must admit that Michael the Difference Thompson, I'm glad to see that the nickname has caught on, so it's not just me calling myself the Difference anymore. It is now official. I must admit that Michael the Difference Thompson is the funny one on the show, and after listening to his DIY confessions, has no chance of getting the title The Smart One. As to his snappy dress sense, I can't comment, so we'll leave that to Sean and Adam. So clearly Will has listened and he's actually kind of responding to each of the points I wanted him to mention in the new review. Snappy dress sense, good DIY, being the kind of the difference.
Being kind of like the difference.
Yeah.
Struggling with his self-appointed nickname now.
Yeah. Struggling with his self-esteem, Adam, I think.
I was trying to be a bit more expansive than just kind of say I am the difference again, but hey, I can't improve on it. So he then says, perhaps more concerning is that I'm getting to like Adam more and more. So this is something just where you just like the review's just going along nicely, then it just goes into a tailspin from this.
He gets you with a good kidney punch.
So perhaps more concerning, Michael, is that I'm getting to like Adam more and more. I too am a techno dinosaur. Take that, Adam.
Embrace it. I'm embracing it.
I also love spreadsheets. I even plan my holidays on them.
Oh, Adam, look, you should see Adam's face.
I'm inspired.
He looks inspired.
And the best one of all, I also have a cavoodle. So suddenly I realised
Doppelganger.
Will may not actually be Will from Bris Vegas at all. It might just be L-Dog from Adam's house.
Yeah.
I mean, number one, the whole point about me being insecure. I'm not insecure. I just like our reviews to be fair. I like to be acknowledged for my contribution to the podcast, and if that contribution is greater than both of yours, then I like that to be acknowledged. Snappy dressing, yes, you can take my word for it that I am the snappier dresser of the three of us, but again, it's a fairly it's a fairly low bar when we've got Captain Indoor Runners over here wearing his Adam Lang, wearing his shiny white runners to keep his little footies warm.
Okay, I've got to jump in here. I'm going to stand up for Adam. We laugh at Adam a lot, deservedly.
Yes,
but
agreed.
he is a snappy dresser. Now, the Indoor Runners we can laugh at, but have you ever been out with Adam and not seen him look good? I mean, you're a T-shirt man through and through, as am I. Adam, even as we stand here today, you got a nice collared shirt on, lovely puffer jacket. Yeah, Michael and I have got sort of T-shirts and old sweaters on, really. So you can't say you dress better than Adam. Adam dresses best of the lot.
The only reason Adam's got a puffer jacket on is because he refuses to turn on the heater.
Yeah, he's cheap. He's cheap. There's no doubt about that. But he dresses well.
Well, actually, I have for today, if I can take you through my wardrobe, because there's a few dress changes required.
Here we go.
I have a couple of different blazers.
Blazers?
Ready.
Oh, now there's a word we don't use enough, isn't it? Blazers. I suppose it's a navy blazer?
Couple of different blazers at the ready.
Right.
Because they could be needed at any moment.
We have been celebrating the Queen's 70 years on the throne, so I think a blazer whilst watching the coverage is appropriate.
The Platinum Jubilee.
I think blazer's a great safe word for today, by the way.
Can we just do that
Accepted.
now? Because I don't want to drop this flow of conversation because Adam's wardrobe is going to be entertaining. So blazer is the safe word.
Yes.
We agree? Excellent.
Settled. Yep.
So I also have a couple of fetching scarves. I know I'm going to be meeting indoors, but they'll be at the ready too.
So a couple of fetching scarves.
Different combos.
Why a couple? Oh, because to go with the different blazers?
Yeah.
Hang on, are you being serious here?
He is being serious.
I am.
So, hang on, and
I've got a bunch of virtual meetings, one in person, it being contemporary life at the moment, but...
Oh, no, hold on. You've taken it to a new level. So you've got blazers and scarves for virtual meetings.
Well, the scarves are actually depending on which blazer I wear to the external meeting.
you wouldn't need the scarves if you turn the heater on.
You see how it all makes sense now, Sean?
So did you put it out this morning? Like, did you get up and you thought, okay, I'm going to make the bed properly, puff the pillows, put the cushions on, doona on, and then that extra bedspread across looks lovely?
No, this is all in my kind of study section, ready.
And then you went to the wardrobe, you took out blazer 1, you took out blazer 2.
Just in case,
Maybe I'll take out blazer 3 just in case. Found a couple of fetching scarves. So have you placed them all on a bed or on...
No, they're on a rack, ready for quick changeover.
Why?
as required.
Why do you need multiple changes today?
Okay.
If they're all with different people, does it matter if you're wearing the same thing between
It matters to me, Michael.
I think a lot of things matter to you that don't matter to other people, Adam.
Look, if it's any concession, I'm not going to change my shoes.
Are they just going to be the shiny white runners for every meeting?
What about your trousers? What about the pant? We'll be
I
changing
shall
your
not
pant?
be. I don't expect to need to change my trousers today. So I
So
think
what are they? The tan, the beige? Are they navy pants? Like what colour pant goes well with all scarves?
Okay, so this is really confessional. I'm on the verge of calling Blazer on this one because I'm meeting virtually. You don't have to see what I'm wearing, on my
On the pant?
legs or feet.
Are you nude?
So,
Oh, please.
of course
That's
not.
destroyed it.
It's far too cold for that.
Nude from the waist down with just your indoor runners on. God,
Very
that
close to a blazer. So,
sounds quite erotic.
no,
Blazer.
I'm wearing merely jeans.
Nearly jeans. What,
Merely. No, merely, not
merely.
nearly.
Nearly.
That's an interesting fashion line. Nearly jeans.
Means you nearly put them on and instead you're still just nude.
Or they're nearly a complete set of jeans.
So these are all blazers with jeans.
Just the two. I'm not using the full collection.
But I just don't understand why there are multiple blazers when they are meetings with. Are they different levels of formality? The blazers, like one's
Exactly.
Is there a kerchief out of one of the top left pockets?
I think there's just one's more, formal than the other.
Can we ask, without giving us names, who you're actually meeting?
Definitely not.
So it's not the Queen?
Tick, not the Queen. I can narrow the field down a little by saying no.
Is it a business leader?
There are a couple of them.
And so, do you wear your more formal blazer for the business leader, or have you got like an emergency dinner happening tonight that you've got the?
For Lara's best friend's dog's next door neighbour.
No well, look, that's the thing about emergency dinners. They can come along at any time. But no, there's no expected emergency dinner.
Because dinner tends to take people by surprise. It's never usually when you think it is.
That's right.
You always think it's going to be in the evening, and suddenly, bam, there it is, 11 a.m. Emergency dinner.
Put my blazer on now.
No time for pants. Blazer.
There is the
Flavour.
meetings are with people. Some of them I expect to be working from home and dress more casually, but some who could be in the office. So
Part of the fun of this conversation is Michael and I just taking the mickey out of you the whole time.
I know.
And you
Believe me, I know.
you do know, but deep down you're kind of serious about it. Deep down you're actually just trying to get
Well,
across
yeah.
the point
There's reasons
that a good,
for it.
decent blazer matters.
This is my opportunity to defend the blazer. Yes.
Blazers, plural.
One final point that came up during it, and it's actually one that you mentioned, Sean, when you were talking about Adam's pants, and you said different colours of pant. Is that like a singular pant?
Well, yeah, look, it's a good question. I just really dislike the word pants. So I can't pants. It's like moist.
Yeah.
I have a moist pair of pants on.
Okay, it's the S that gets you.
Oh, I don't know. And pant, at least, it's almost taking the mickey out of pants. Pants is a bad word. Wouldn't you agree?
I do agree.
Okay, I've blazered this. I'm moving on. I want to talk about Boris Johnson.
Oh, my God.
What a laugh, the big fella.
He's the first sitting UK Prime Minister to have criminal charges.
What are the criminal charges?
So he breached the government's orders on social gathering.
Yes, right. Partygate.
Yeah, Partygate. So, and at 10 Downing Street, there was over 100 infringements of the very orders that they put out to the whole country. It's extraordinary.
But this really comes back to being a good boss.
I suppose it does.
Like no one wants a boss who, makes the rules and then sticks to them. Everyone, because you expect your CEO to make the rules, but, just have a few exemptions. And that's basically all that we've had with Boris.
Exemptions.
He's just had a few exemptions. He's just had 100 exemptions, in fact, and hosted parties and lied about it and done all that. But, he's a good bloke, isn't he? He's kind of fun. I love the fact that 59% of his own party like him. Meaning 41%.
Really don't. And actively voted on it.
Then he comes out afterwards and says, right, well, that's over.
Nothing to see here.
That's right.
I'm clear for a year. Did you know there's that rule? They can only do it once in a 12-month period.
Well, if you'd actually been not at the birthday party, you would have heard Michael and I talking about that during the week, Adam. So, yes, we did know about it.
Just that subtle little
Dig.
little whack there. Do you reckon Boris Johnson genuinely has a thick skin? And when he says, let's all move on from that now, he genuinely believes that it is done and you can move on? Or do you reckon he goes home at night and goes, they really don't like me very much, do they? And it would, because that would get to me. Surely, if you are a leader of that nature, and actually this is probably a question for both of you, does it bother you if people don't like you? Because when you are leading a large team in particular, and you have both led large teams, you are going to make decisions that are unpopular. And obviously, I'm not comparing what kind of happened with Boris to what happened in both of your roles, because it's not as though you kind of led teams and kind of set the rules and then broke them. But you're going to inevitably annoy people. Sean, okay, maybe you broke some of your own rules, but you can be absolutely sure that Adam never breached any of his protocol or his guidelines.
I think politics is totally different. I mean, Scott Morrison actually said this in the campaign, in the election campaign. He kept saying, you don't need to like me, you just need to vote for me because we're better on the economy, we're better on security. And I think politicians, and Boris Johnson, he's been mayor of London, he's been in politics a long, long time, he'd have really thick skin.
Yeah.
And I think he genuinely thinks he's the smartest bloke in the room, and he genuinely thinks he knows best. And whilst you might think that's dreadful ego, maybe it's actually really good self-confidence for a leader to have, and the British public have voted him in, or at least the parliamentarians have voted him in, and as a result, you kind of need someone like that. I'm not going to stand up for Boris Johnson any way, shape or form, but I reckon you need someone with this ultimate self-confidence to run your country.
Adam, I am still interested though, because you did make the comparison that it's, Sean, that it's like running a company, but having run a company, when people don't like you necessarily,
you sack them.
Do you just sack them? Like, do you just give them a warning and say, if you don't
skip the warnings,
if you don't like me by June, you're out?
Yeah. If you haven't taken me out for lunch by June, see ya.
It gives people a chance to redeem themselves, and if they still don't like you, they can see how generous you are, they can see how magnanimous you are. You're giving them that opportunity.
Yeah,
then do you punt them?
Yeah. Adam, how did you punt people? This would be because you're too nice to punt people.
Okay. That's one of those.
Put the serious blazer on here.
Isn't that one of those sort of questions where it's doomed no matter what you say? Hopefully, respectfully is how it was interpreted. It was certainly intended that way. With Boris Johnson, I do think he's got a thick skin. I think he is, I won't say, I was going to say borderline narcissist, but
No borderline.
I think he is actually crossing the line on that one. He is the guy that has authored the rules, broken the rules, held other people to account for doing so because it was enacted in law, and not hold himself accountable to the same consequences. I think it's a farce. So I think he's actually thick-skinned and deluded, and I think that his leadership is absolutely doomed. So it's just a matter of time.
I love the way that when you get into this serious stuff, Adam, we asked about how you sack people respectfully.
Yeah.
Like, when do you ever answer a question with one word? Only when you want to avoid it, respectfully. Yeah. When it comes to Boris Johnson. So let's go back to that part.
Okay.
How did you, when they walked in the room, I mean, it's an awful thing to have to do, and I've done it.
Yeah, it's tough.
Plenty of times. And I totally agree. You have to be respectful, and you have to believe that you're doing it for the right reason. Like, as the person doing it, you have to believe that you're doing it for a good reason. You know, maybe saving a sinking ship or something like that, you know, trying to cut costs, whatever. But that's actually a reason. So how do you do it, Adam?
Geez, it's awful. And preceding it, it really comes down to executing a final step of a process. And Sean, I know for all of your light treatment of the subject, you've done it many times and very heartfelt in doing so. It's tough. It's awful. In the end, the business has come to a decision that it can't afford the performance return that's coming from that role. And so you have to do that with forewarning. Obviously, there's a lot of stages to make sure you do what you can to support that person to perform. It's a loss for both of you.
But that's when it's just based on performance, though, isn't it? Often you can actually be performing and the decision might just be because of an overall cost-cutting.
Yes, it can.
It's not based on performance. That one is based on cost cutting.
Just numbers. Yeah.
And in some ways that's easier than performance, because performance management is really hard, because you should be talking to someone every week for a long time before you get to the point of saying, hey, you got to go.
Yeah, minimum.
And Michael, you run teams in that, and people aren't performing, and it's a real effort to say, look, this week you just need to do A, B, C. That's what your goal is. We want to get you there, and they don't achieve it, and that's actually a lot harder, I reckon.
And Adam had that conversation with me last week. Wait a minute. Am I being performance managed?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
All fine.
I have had no such conversation with you in the last week, Michael.
Carry on.
Carry on.
All right.
And now, just before we leave Boris, he wrote a book on Churchill. The guy is a bit of a genius, and the book is an ode to Churchill. But what a great book! It is one of the best books I've read in recent years.
So I haven't read it. I've seen him speak about it. It's regarded as very high quality, and so I'm a Churchill fan. I will read it, but I think that's probably where he's showing his strong suit alone as an author. Not when he's trying to lead a nation disingenuously.
He has an amazing turn of phrase, Boris Johnson. I mean, Churchill was the greatest in terms of turns of phrases. I can't remember the parliamentarian who, at some function, a Westminster function, a woman said, Prime Minister, you are drunk. And he turned to her and said, and ma'am, you are ugly, but at least in the morning, I will be sober.
That is particularly cruel.
Oh, yes, it's horrendous.
The one I remember is a lady said to him, if you were my husband, I would poison your tea. And he said to her, madam, if you were my wife, I would drink it.
Can I, before we leave entirely, and I know we're actually kind of skipping back to a topic that we were just talking about, but before we leave...
Do you think today's been a schmozzle? Like, there's been absolutely no thread to this conversation whatsoever.
Whose fault is that? Who is the person anchoring this? It is Sean, no structure, Aylmer.
Blazer.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. You've safe worded it. I can't continue, but just know that I'm thinking it.
Okay, look, so let's go back. Let's go back, Michael.
So we're just rewinding ever so slightly. Before we got sidetracked by Churchill quotes, we were talking about redundancies and a very serious conversation. But this has actually been a big discussion this week on LinkedIn about redundancies at Klarna, which is one of the big kind of buy now, pay later companies. Swedish company, it cut more than 700 staff around the world in the last couple of weeks. That's about 10% of its global workforce. They said it was basically because of a predicted drop in consumer spending. The challenge here is, and of course we know that this kind of thing happens. You'll need to make these kind of changes in order to keep a company competitive. It has been controversial though, because there's a couple of elements that have gone a little awry. One, apparently it took a lot of people by surprise. The company has been growing rapidly. And at the start of this year, Klarna had 5,000 employees. They have been on an absolute hiring spree for the last 6 months and have grown from 5,000 to 7,000 staff in the last 6 months. And now they've gone and cut at least 700 of those people. Some of those who lost their jobs had only been hired a couple of weeks earlier, and then have turned around and been cut in this round of redundancies. Other new staff had been flown to Sweden for kind of full, all expenses paid, induction programs, all that kind of thing, all stuff that probably could have actually been done online. This is, though, where it gets a little bit more controversial. One employee, someone who actually kept his job created a list online, a document where anyone who their role had been made redundant could add their details to the list. They could put their name, their job, where they were in the world, kind of their contact details, and it was designed to help them find a job. And this bloke shared it then on LinkedIn, and there are hundreds of people in this document. So it's basically just a who's who from Klarna of who has lost their job in this round of redundancies. The reason why it's challenging is because the CEO, the co-founder of Klarna, then shared that list on LinkedIn and said, if your company's lucky enough to employ one of these fantastic people, I can assure you it will be one of your biggest wins this year. He has been quite heavily criticised for doing this. There's a lot of people saying it's tone deaf, that you managed the change poorly if now you've got hundreds of people desperately posting their contact details online and you're sharing them in the hope of helping them find a new job. Handled badly, or just kind of people disgruntled about losing their jobs, as you would be.
That's horrendous. I mean, you don't hire 2,000 people and then sack 700. Where is your strategic planning in that? That's a shocker.
Yeah.
And the CEO, once you've gotten rid of these people, you can't come in and try and be the nice guy. I mean, it's just stupid. Presumably he's trying to make himself feel better by saying, I'll help these guys that have lost their job. He obviously feels bad about that because it's a strategic misstep. But don't go out there and try and make yourself feel better by saying, hey, employ these guys.
To be still kind of recruiting people 2 or 3 weeks before the redundancies and then making some of those new recruits redundant.
I mean, a trip to Sweden would be all right, though. Orientation.
Springtime.
Yeah, quite nice.
So I'm with Sean on this one. The original premise, Michael, that you mentioned around an expected downturn in consumer spending has required this. So what in their plan, their business plan, their strategic plan, as you said, Sean, what in their planning was suggesting consumer spending at what level to support this growth? So, like, what was this growth predicated upon? Because it seems to have been quickly revealed as a fallacy.
So I'm going to be devil's advocate a little bit here because, to be honest, in January this year, coming out of COVID, consumer spending was supposed to go through the roof, right? Then we have the war in Ukraine. We have energy prices going through the roof. We have this incredible run of inflation globally. And there's plenty of people overseas and here. I mean, this week we had Wesfarmers' Rob Scott, the CEO. We had Matt Common from Commonwealth Bank coming out saying cost of living is a real issue here. So I'm being devil's advocate. So I still think the Klarna guy did the wrong thing. But I reckon in January, businesses were looking at a very, very different 2022 than what they're looking at now.
So I disagree on one point.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I like this. Finally.
Go on.
Come on, big fella. Let's go. Let's go.
Fight to the death.
He's changing blazers too. Good Lord.
Oh, he's putting on his combat blazer. It's camo.
And a beanie.
Is that a gun?
Camouflage paint on my face. So the war in Ukraine, I think, was probably the only thing you could not see coming. What was it, February the 24th? I know there were tensions on borders and it's been long-standing tensions, but to me it's still incredible that this tragedy is unfolding. But apart from that, I think accepted premises were that interest rates had to come up to combat rising inflation. So I would say it is a supercharged event, a war, supply chains, not predictable. But other things still suggested that consumer spending was going to have to come down because interest rates had to go up. So I just come back to the strategic premise that caused you to...
I disagree with that, actually.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't know energy prices were going to go through the roof. I mean, that happened because of Ukraine. No, primarily because of Ukraine, not only.
Okay, so net zero needs energy prices to go up, and that is long-standing.
Not in 6 months.
No, but they still need to come up. And one little cold snap and up they go. So I think what we're talking about really
we did cut off the flow of the commodities out of Russia and Ukraine. We did cut off the globe's biggest...
Well, not all of them.
...wheat belt.
I'll be back in a sec. I'm just going to get some popcorn so I can enjoy this.
So what we're talking about here is degrees. And I think... Everyone will have different views.
Don't try and come down. Let's come to an agreement on this, Adamski.
I fundamentally disagree with you.
You and I, we disagree.
Absolutely.
I like it.
And look, that's the key to good business, right? Having respectful disagreements.
No. Oh, Adam.
Forget respectful.
This is where you went wrong as a CEO.
Get in there.
The respect part.
Yes.
God, rip in.
Tell people what you don't like about them and make it blunt.
I'll go personal.
Why are you firing me? Because you're a dickhead.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're a little bit ugly. You just don't suit the vibe of the place. Yeah.
That's right.
It's the vibe.
And you're bringing your dog to work. And if you're not bringing it to work, you're thinking about it and talking about it. You're out of here.
And you're starting to resemble that dog. Just putting it out there.
What is that about people and dogs, that people look like their dogs?
I've actually noticed that Adam's starting to look a little bit cavoodle-ish.
Very much cavoodle-ish. It's the hair.
Anyway,
It's the blazer.
It's the blazer.
back to the disagreement. Klarna
here we go.
hires 2,000 people, 40% of their workforce, right? They've got 5, hire another 2, and within months, oh, sorry, everyone, got the spreadsheet wrong.
Oh, so here's the problem. This is why you don't like the bloke. He got the spreadsheet wrong.
Yeah, and hired 2,000 people, disrupted their lives, some of them really hopeful that this was going to be their place for a long time. And then I think this is where I come into furious agreement. I think it was terrible. And as a CEO, you can't, it's like false altruism. You can't sort of now say it's okay and I'm a good person for attempting to help by magnifying the issue that you created in the attempt to create opportunities for other people. I think he had no permission to do that.
I'm sure he was just trying to do the right thing. I don't think he was being mean about it.
That may have been the intent, but
Yeah.
very poor execution.
It feels like that maybe one of the commenters got it right when they said it's tone deaf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a very bad spreadsheet.
I've never heard you criticise spreadsheets. I thought spreadsheets were infallible.
Well, look, you're right. It's not the tool that's in question. It's the person using it.
Look, can I just have a very quick gripe? And seeing as this is a business podcast, I figure that I can have a gripe about the way we run our business.
You can. Go
This is-
ahead.
A piece of very direct feedback. And it's not a 4-to-1 kind of ratio.
I'm guessing not.
Twice weekly, we have an operations meeting for Fear and Greed, and which are always enjoyable. I find them good.
Informative-ish.
Yep.
I'm not so sure. Go on.
There's often a little bit of confusion, though, over whether this meeting is going to be taking place by phone or by video call. And the other day, Adam, word came through from you that, yep, we'll be doing it on video call. So everyone needs to get onto the as you call it, the Google machine and sit there and we'll all look at each other on our cameras. You booked it in for 9 a.m. So I logged on and sat there and waited and waited and waited. I waited for 18 minutes on my own, sent a couple of messages to you both going, hey, we still meeting this morning. I haven't sent you a photo of myself sitting there waiting
On the Google machine.
on the Google machine entirely on my own. But neither of you showed up. Sean, I can kind of get it because it's always a bit of a mystery as to whether you'll show up anyway. But Adam, you booked it. You booked the meeting and you'd even sent us a reminder like 20 minutes before it was due to start. And then you never turned up. You ghosted me. What was that about? That was number one. This is a two-part gripe.
okay.
Number
Excellent.
two
Good.
is Sean. When we are having our operations meetings and sometimes you're in the car, there is a very loud whistling noise that comes through from your microphone. And I thought it could have been like, you know how just as people age, and they
Alan Seals.
exactly, and they speak and they start to whistle on the letter S. Yeah, exactly. I didn't know whether it was like your words catching on your dentures, that kind of thing.
That sort of thing?
But no, it turns out it's your roof racks whistling in the wind.
Which I put on myself. Just
No,
like to add.
of course. That's the only explanation.
So, number one, Adam, what's going on with standing people up for operations meetings that you've set up? And Sean, what's going on with your roof racks? They are my two questions for you. It's a two-part gripe about, really, that's all I have to gripe about the way Fear and Greed is run as a business.
I'm going to just answer mine quickly so we can listen to Adam and take the mickey out of him rather than me. I put the roof racks on, therefore they whistle. Full stop.
Oh, well, as a fellow kind of
DIY man.
DIY, I don't know what the word to describe myself as. A
Novice?
failure. No, failure. I'll go more extreme. I understand that, and you are forgiven, Sean. Now, Adam, to you. Why did you stand me up?
And this comes to my intro about, you're off at school concerts and partners, dogs, friends, parents, birthdays and stuff like that. It's all part of a theme this week, Adam.
Yes, there's been a couple of emergencies, late breaking emergencies. One of them involved a school drop-off, which didn't work out precisely as I planned and ruined my attendance at the meeting. The other one was a session I couldn't turn up to, the recording session, because of an emergency dinner. Now, the emergency dinner was not for me. It was to take my wife to attend an emergency dinner with a friend. And so I had to miss our recording session.
So what happens if Michael and I don't turn up for the recording?
Yes. So the great news is, as you both know, through 95% of our recordings, I am the fifth wheel. I am nearly there.
And considering there's just three of us, that means there are two wheels in between us and you.
Maggie the dog?
Yeah.
I am unnecessary. I like to attend because I genuinely enjoy what we do. But as I'm not a voice on the podcast, I'm really just there to assist. And so it doesn't stop anything if I'm not there.
Oh, but the moral support here, the moral support.
So perhaps I should be selling you on isn't it good that for 2 years I've been doing 95% of sessions that I don't have to?
Oh, well done. You managed to turn that around to be a positive. Look how many sessions I have attended.
Mickey loves that. We are running out of time, but Michael, I do want you to explain my introduction and why we're happy that you're here today and you won't ever do DIY again.
Oh, well, okay. The DIY is completely unrelated to the reason why I was nearly not here today. And
we'll be the judge of that.
I didn't bring down the power lines through dodgy DIY.
Tell the story.
Okay, so there was strong winds. It was a very windy day the other day, and we have a large tree in our front yard, and I get a call from my wife saying, look, I can't get into the driveway. A branch has come down across the driveway. Can you move it? So really, this is her fault.
And being the buffy bloke that you are, you thought, I'll get out there and move that tree.
I'll move the branch. And so I went out there to move the branch. I'm like, okay, all right, I can move this. It's not too big. I can handle that.
Here comes the difference.
And so, the difference is here to save the day. And so I bend down to grab the branch and look down and realize that I'm standing on a power line that has fallen. And I said, oh, gosh.
Gee whiz.
Golly gosh.
Yeah. What footwear were you looking down upon at the time, Michael?
I don't think that's relevant.
Thongs. That's the beautiful of it.
I was wearing thongs. Who doesn't wear thongs? Oh, wait a second.
Nearly on bare feet. No, nearly on bare feet to move a tree.
Yes, but I mean, if this had been you would have had to change from your indoor runners to your outdoor runners.
Go on, Michael. Forget it. Not about Adam.
Tree lifting blazer.
A tree lifting blazer. I love it. And so clearly there was no power running through the power line. Otherwise, I probably would be dead. Clearly. And so I called
How did you know that? How did you know it was clearly?
Had a hunch.
Well,
he wasn't on fire at the time.
Because I survived. And so I didn't see it until after I stood on it. And so I called up the power company. I said, look, there's a power line's come down. I said, look, I'm pretty sure it's not live. And they said, as you said, how do you know? I said, well, I stood on it and I'm calling you. So I think it's not live. And like, oh my. And then the power company turned up, the fireys turned up to make the area safe. And because the power line went across a couple of driveways. And the technician from the power company comes up and he goes, are you the guy who stood on the power line? I'm like, yes. He goes, you do not do that. I'm like, I didn't do it deliberately. And he then goes, yes, but you just don't go near power lines. Like, I didn't see it when it had fallen down. And I said it was the branch had fallen. He goes, okay, no, but if a branch has fallen on power lines, you just don't go near it. I'm like, I didn't see the power lines there. And he goes, but you just can't go near the power lines when they're down. I'm like, I am not dumb. I did not see the power line until I was standing on it. He's like, oh, okay. All right. But it's very dangerous. I'm like, yep, I know that. Thank you. I have learnt my lesson. So
This is
anyway,
like a Seinfeld episode.
I am not dumb.
yep. Yeah, I'm like, why did I have to clarify
Standing in your driveway, waving your hands. I am not dumb.
that? Yeah, it was quite an animated conversation, but they did a fantastic job of clearing everything up and putting it back up. But anyway, I survived. I'm here.
Thank God.
Yeah, and it was a great day for me.
It is. It's time to go, I think. Thank you for listening to Safeword by Fear and Greed this morning. Mickey, thank you for being part of it.
Thank you, Sean.
Adamski, thank you for being part of it.
Thank you, Sean.
Don't forget to hit follow on Safeword so you get a new episode every week. Michael, you can probably use a smart speaker too, couldn't you? We could just say Safeword by Fear and Greed and it'll turn up, I'd imagine. Is that right?
Oh, we'll give it a go. Don't know what you're going to get.
But I hope you enjoy whatever you end up with. And certainly tell your friends, your family and your colleagues all about us. I'm Sean Aylmer. Have a great day.